All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Aya Oseni along with Pastor Yele Adewale. We're on the line here. We want to just appreciate you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to just kind of hear about some tips and some concerns that have come up over the last week or so when it comes to our seniors within Caleb Crew. So we want to make sure that you and your students are on the right path towards that January 1st deadline. And so we want to provide you with some information. So on this quick webinar, we're going to talk about how you can support your child through this process. We're going to talk about what your senior should be doing now just to make sure that you as a parent are able to catch any things that maybe even your senior, even if they are well ahead of the schedule, they might have had some oversight on any test options that you weren't aware of, the different application platforms, and what goes into the application, because that's key, because we're finding some seniors are missing out on that information. We'll talk about applying for financial aid, the admissions decisions that you'll see over the next month or so, and then social media and email check, as well as scholarships. So this webinar, like I said earlier, is being recorded, and we will share it out with everyone. All lines right now are muted. Only myself and Pastor Yele are unmuted. But if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat box, and ask to be unmuted. Or if you would like, you can send me a WhatsApp message, or you can put it actually in the Caleb Crew parent group chat, and we'll try to use that as another venue or avenue to answer your questions as well. Okay, Uncle Yele?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, parents. Again, it's the time of the year that we need to make sure the 12th graders don't miss out on anything. There's a lot of things going on now. There's not a lot of time. I know you're still thinking you have, most of the kids think they have till January 1. The truth is they really don't have that time. January 1 specifically is one of the worst days to submit an application. You have millions of people from all over the world crashing several school sites. So it's a terrible thing for you to even attempt to submit on January 1. And that's what a lot of people always hope last minute. Now, what we would advise, because we just talking to some of the teenagers, we find out that there's a gap in where we think they should be and what the parents know about where they should be. One of the things I would like to make sure that the parents really pay particular attention to what the kids have to submit. It's a very, very daunting task. The kids are under a lot of pressure now, and you want to guide them. You want to ask them where they are in the process of the college applications, because a lot of them are not where they want to be, but they are afraid to even go further. So you want to gently ask them and help them in these next few days. A lot of them are on holidays now, so it's time for you to go ahead and try to see. It's fight to the finish now. The finish line is very close. You need to make sure that in the next 2, 3, 4 days that all the applications are submitted and everything is corrected. And I will really advise that you really help them, not to criticize them, but to kind of like understand them, because they are going through a lot of pressure now. So that's what I'm going to advise. And as we go along, if you have any questions, please write it down and let's answer it. Our job is to make life easier for you and for your teenagers. So we're here to help you. So please, whatever help you need, let us know it. Thanks.
Thank you, Uncle Yele. All right, so we'll go through the admissions process. Like Uncle Yele said, January 1st is definitely around the corner, and January 1st is typically the major deadline for most schools in the United States. There's some schools that have deadlines after the January 1st, but the January 1st is the most popular deadline. So basically, we're 11 days away from that deadline. So we are encouraging students to maximize their holiday break. These 11 days are critical, especially if they haven't started. I know a lot of students in Caleb Crew specifically have postponed their applications just because of the stress of senior year. They are taking AP classes, they are in extracurricular activities. So these 11 days are going to be critical to the process. So some students have already applied with early action but I just do want to make you aware that there are schools out there that still have early actions in January, early action plans in January. So you want to make sure that if you have a student that's eligible for that, depending on the school that they're applying to, that they take advantage of that early action. Regular decision is typically what most schools are doing in January and after that point, but still compare the information on the school's website or even the application, depending on what platform the student is using. Okay, so at this point, and you would have to definitely make sure that you are talking to your student about this, that they should have at minimum 9 to 12 schools that they are applying to or plan to or already applied to or plan to apply to. So in those 9 to 12 schools, we group them 3 to 4 schools as safety schools, which basically means that your student, if they, in comparison to the previous incoming freshman class, your student falls way above as far as GPA and SAT or ACT scores for those incoming freshmen that they have already measured and documented and published that information. And then we want to make sure that there's 3 to 4 schools that your student is a match where they meet that that ACT, SAT, and GPA that has been published. And then we also want your students to go and try for reach schools as well. Again, 3 to 4 schools. And so there are several websites that you can use to develop a list of schools if you have not already. I know some parents already have a list for their students, or students already have lists for themselves. But if you're still unsure or you want to add to that list, you are free to use some of these websites. Collegeboard.org is a website that I use quite frequently when I'm just pulling up a list for students who are interested in a particular school, or they're not sure what school, but they already know their major. So I'm gonna just go ahead and share my screen really quick so you can see kind of how this website works. So what you would do is go to bigfuture.collegeboard.org. If your student has already completed the SAT or is registered for the SAT at one point, they already have an account, and so they would log in with their account credentials, and you would just go to college search, and then on this college search screen you are able to filter out by several criteria: the type of school that you want. Is it a 4-year school? Is it a university? Is it public, private? You're also able to filter out by test, so your student can put in what they scored on the SAT as well as the ACT. They can also filter by their major and so many other options. So I implore you to go to that website and check that out. And so the other thing is, once you figure out what schools you want to apply to, I encourage you to definitely make sure, if it's 12 schools or 25 schools, go to each of those schools' websites and make sure that your student has basically checked off all the requirements that is needed to apply to that school, because it'd be very painful for your child to sit there and write 3 and 4 essays for a particular school to only find out that they didn't meet up when it comes to the testing plan, and we'll talk about that in a second. So there are a few college application platforms out there. I know we kind of throw these terminologies here and there, but I'm going to just explain them in a bit detail right now. We have college is Common Application, which are also known as Common App. They have over 750 schools on their website that you can apply to. So with these type of websites, is a central application that your student would create, which would be their name, their address, their SAT scores, their personal statement, or their main personal statement. And from there, they would select a school and attach that common application to that school's application. And then from there, you would now go into the school's app and now submit the questions that individual school is asking. So it's a really easy way to do applications really quickly. However, you still have to pay attention to any of the additional requirements that the school asks for. And so that's Common App. Coalition App, it's a newer platform. They only have 130, about over 130 schools on their platform. However, University of Maryland, which is a school that a lot of our students are applying to, they use this application exclusively. So there's no separate school-specific application for University of Maryland. They would have to use a coalition application. And if you have a student that is applying to multiple HBCUs, which is historically Black colleges or universities, they should take a look at the Common Black or the Black Common application. It's a central application similar to the coalition and the Common application. However, with this application, you can apply to up to 51 different HBCUs, but it's $35, which is definitely a break on your pockets. Uncle Yele, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell again, just to add a little bit from what you said. For a lot of parents, it may look strange, but by now you should be familiar with a lot of these platforms, at least one of them. Even if your son or your daughter tells you that, oh, I'm done, I've submitted, you want to ask them how many and what the colleges they have submitted. You want to check the list. If they can do up to 12 or 13, I normally will say at least do over 12 to 15 for a normal student. That's what I would say. Just because there's a lot of schools that are even smaller schools that have a lot of money, a lot of scholarship to give. And if your children have done well in some areas, there may be, based on what the criteria I said, there are some very smaller schools who can give a lot more scholarship than all the big name schools that you know. So it might be worth it for you to go and do some research based on these things we're giving, these tools we're giving you. So please go online yourself and see in these next few days, just take time off to do these things. Very, very important. There are a lot of good small schools that are expensive, but they give a lot of money to minority children. And our children can benefit from that.
Okay. Thank you, Uncle Ellen.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, so some general things that you need to be on the lookout for when it comes to the application and what needs to be submitted to the university. You want to obviously, like we've talked about those different applications, you want to make sure whatever application that your child is using, that they use it and complete it. And so another thing that you need to consider is the high school transcript. Parts of the application, let me back up a step. Parts of the application, your student, if they want to, they can wait to the last minute and push it and submit. However, things like the transcript, recommendation letters, those things can't wait to the last minute because it involves other people and involves other systems. So you want to make sure, I know tomorrow's maybe the last day for some students, you want to make sure tonight, have your student log into their Common App or their Coalition app and confirm that their transcript is attached to those systems. If they're not, you need to find out how you need to go about getting that done tomorrow. Okay, so letter of recommendations, the same thing. Common App shows that to you, shows you where in the process it is. Has the person writing the recommendation already completed it, or have they not? So that's going to be another thing you need to follow up on. So the activities resume is something that the students need to be working on right now. Depending on the major, there are some majors that require students to submit portfolios or samples of their work. You need to find out if that is required, how does it need to be submitted? And of course, that's not something that can probably be put together in the last minute. It's going to take some time. So you want to take that into consideration when you're making the timeline. And then the essay, which is probably I would say is the most stressful thing for many of our students. Again, check to make sure that the school, how many essays the school is truly requiring. Some schools, actually, let me pull over my Common App. I did share this a couple of days ago. I'm gonna just show you what Common App looks like right now. I have an account that I created just to get an idea of what the students' experiences as they go through the Common App. So this is the Common application, and I'm looking at the Yale portion, or Yale University application on the Common App. And so you can see here, there isn't anything that says anything outlined right now that says there's any additional supplemental essays. Let me find another school. Okay, so Howard University, which is another school our students apply to, Howard has their application portion, which is right here. They have their 3 parts, and then they also have a writing supplement area. And this is where they would submit the additional writing essays that the school is wanting, depending on maybe their major or just a standard fee for any applicant. Whereas Yale University doesn't have that separate writing supplement area, as you can see. Yale actually has it inside the application. So if your student is waiting to the last minute and looking at their schools in Common App like that without actually going into the application, this would be a big fumble for them, because to write some of these essays at the last minute can be very stressful because of the type of questions they are and how thorough the school is asking the student to reflect. And so also the SAT, SAT 1s, SAT subjects test, and the ACT scores, they need to be sent, and that is through the respective platforms. You need to go ahead and do that. If you have a fee waiver, then it may be free. If not, then there's charges associated with sending your scores to each of the schools. You need to double check that there's no required or optional interviews and auditions. Depending on the major and the school, that might be something you have to look into. And then also there may be special majors or specific programs that require an additional application. So I know some schools, their honors program, if the student is interested in it, they require an additional application outside of the admissions application. So you need to make sure that you are aware of that, or your student is aware of that. And then there's might be a residency form just to verify that the student qualifies for in-state tuition. Uncle Yale, anything on that?
Yeah. I mean, again, yeah, go ahead. But I mean, you've emphasized on the essays as being the most stressful. And again, I'll just add a few sentences to that. It takes an average of about maybe 2 days for somebody, for a teenager or even anybody to write a decent essay, you know, and then they have to go back and edit it again and again. So normally they should have been done with the essays by now, because it's not something that just comes to your mind like that. You have to think about it. So it's a very, very stressful process. But one of the things I'd like to advise students is, once you have one essay or two, you can always adjust any of the supplemental essays that you can always adjust, cut and paste from your essay and just add a little, and then you can submit those ones if you haven't done that by now, because it's tough putting up a new essay in the next few days. Especially at the end of the year, children, we want to celebrate, so it's a little bit of a stressful time. But just look at, if as parents, just help to look through your essays. Hopefully they should have gone through that stage by now. All you're waiting for is to submit. And also in terms of recommendations, tomorrow is the last day of school, so today might be a critical day. You might have to take off as a parent and follow your child to the school, to the counselor, to go and beg them and sit with them and say, please, I need you to help me do this stuff. You need to kind of like do that, because a lot of times the kids, they get frustrated. So, and teachers, they have like 1,000 other, so they prioritize who is their favorite and stuff like that. So tomorrow might be your last chance to go into the school, take time off, and then just go and ask, have you sent, if your child logs online and they see that they haven't yet submitted the recommendation letters, then it's time for you to really go to the school and go and ask, go and plead with them, because they have they're under so much pressure. But hey, if you see you, there's always a difference. You know, they'll give you, they might be able to do you a favor. So please go tomorrow and don't let it be a waste, because after tomorrow, every school is off.
Yes, that's very true. Thank you, Uncle. Okay, so another thing I want to point out to parents at this point, if you have a student that may not be strong as far as testing is concerned, there are schools that have test optional or test flexible plans available to students. Basically what that does, or what test optional or test flexible schools do, is that they de-emphasize the focus on the SAT and the ACT. So they may require the student to submit a score, but they won't pay attention to it, or they don't even ask for the score. And within the actual application, the student can indicate whether or not they will be submitting a score to the school if that option is available. So sometimes they ask for an additional essay or a recommendation letter if they decide to do the test optional route, or some schools, specifically with the test flexible schools, still require you to submit some type of standardized test, but it doesn't have to be specifically the SAT 1 or the ACT. So that's something to consider. However, when it comes to these test flexible and test optional schools, you have to make sure that you are comparing or reviewing the scholarship website, the merit scholarship websites for these schools, because if you decide to go through the test optional or test flexible route, you might actually be forfeiting any scholarship money that your student might have qualified for in the case they were able to meet the requirements for a particular scholarship. So you definitely want to check that out. There are several schools on this list. I think American University is there, NYU is there. There's so many schools, so many brand name or well-known schools, as well as some small liberal arts schools. But do take the opportunity to take a look at the list to see maybe you might want to add additional schools from that list. Uncle Yele? Okay. All right. So you have something to add, Yele?
No, again, the good news is, again, it's a lot of work, but the good news is you got to do something. Once you hit the submit button, you can go to rest. Now, I wanted to just say something. A lot of parents have gotten some letters already based on the fact that students submitted, some of the students submitted early, so they have like 2 or 3. Now, it's a good position to be in once you have your letters. But if you don't have anything, don't worry, don't stress it. Some kids have done their work since November. So they're getting the results now. Some have done it end of October. So it's fine if you haven't done any. But the bottom line is you got to do your best before the end of this week. Now, if you get the letters, before you make any decisions, wait. Don't go and accept. Wait, because sometimes or oftentimes you may have to compare 2 schools that gives you admission. You may have to compare the financial aid part of it, because the cost of attending a school is also important when you get the admission letters. So I'm hoping that all of you have submitted your financial aid forms, because these are very critical. Some of the schools, you'll have missed out some scholarships if you haven't done that by now, because they're very strict on the deadlines. And let me tell you, the way it works is every school has a certain amount of money they want to give away. The first come, first serve. If you get there on time, they give you more money. If you come there late, they may give you an admission, but you don't have any money to attend the school. So, and maybe a great choice for your child. So please, whatever documents they need for financial aid, you need to have submitted that, your tax returns and stuff like that. Whatever they ask you to do, you need to have done that. Thank you, Ayo.
And then to add to that, what Keely said about comparing the offers, unless your child did early decision, which most students don't, they typically have till May 1st to make a decision. So do wait for those other offers, those other financial aid packages to come in before making a decision. And if you're confused about which school to go to or how to maybe try to negotiate those offers, please feel free to reach out to myself or Pastor Yele. And so what I'm going to talk about really quick is the financial aid process, well, financial aid applications, the different applications, because depending on the school that your student is applying to, there may be 1 or 2 applications that need to be submitted, along with any institutional applications that the school requires of applicants. So the first one is the one I believe most parents know pretty well. It's the FAFSA, which is also called the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And so this is actually your first step to qualifying for federal financial aid. Please know that this form is free. And so I get parents all the time that say, you know what, we are not going to qualify for any need-based grants or need-based loans, so we're not going to be bothered filing the FAFSA. I want you to understand that some universities and some colleges, before they give out merit scholarships, they still require the family to complete, or the student to submit a FAFSA, so a FAFSA application. So just keep that in mind. If you choose not to, totally up to you. It's your decision, but you might be leaving money on the table. And so this application shouldn't take you any longer than 1 hour to complete. It's a relatively straightforward form. However, and it also, if you filed your taxes, it can pull information from your tax reform from the IRS website and just basically plot it right into the form. So I wouldn't say it should take anything more than an hour, but it can vary from case to case. What you do need to complete your FAFSA or to electronically sign your FAFSA is you're going to need an FSA ID. And so you will need one, one of the parents will need one, as well as one of the student, and the student. So the parent will have their own FSA ID and the student will have their own as well. But both of you will need that ID to electronically sign the FAFSA, along with also signing electronically your promissory notes for any student loans. So when you have that FAFSA ID, make sure you hold on to it and keep it private.
Yeah, the FAFSA ID, it could, for some of the people, the FAFSA, it could take a little bit longer because you have to get used to the process of that FAFSA. So please, whatever they ask you, you have to pay attention to that website, because sometimes it may lock you out and you may have to write to the Department of Education or something before you get your lock. So whatever they ask you to do, be careful to read the instructions and to make sure you get your FAFSA ID and your electronic, because without those things, you cannot sign it and you cannot send it. So those are very important things. Just again, pay attention and do it carefully, and then you follow instructions. It's not so difficult, but it's a little bit difficult. The forms may be difficult, especially for people who are self-employed. Salary people may have an easier time. If you're self-employed, you may have a little bit of difficulty because it depends on what you fill in your tax returns. But if you have filed your taxes, you can just go ahead and link it up to the FAFSA, and then because there's a new button called link. So all you have to do is to link your tax returns, and then it will pull all the numbers for you. Because sometimes you may not understand what they're looking for. Bottom line is they're trying to see how much did you make, how much were your expenses, your legitimate expenses, and how much do you have extra. So there's what you call the bottom line is they're trying to calculate the IFC. What is it called? The
EFC.
EFC, expected family contribution. So that is what they expect from each family, combining all the incomes, the husband, the wife, whoever is living in that household. What is the EFC? So because of with the EFC, that's how they determine how much they will give you in terms of financial aid. So these are very, very critical documents. And once you do it for the first year, it's going to roll over for the years after, except there's some, and most people don't change the status of their taxes. So be very careful when you fill it the first time for your first student. If you have another student coming in the next year or two, then they will give you more money because you have a lot more justifiable expenses and you have a child in college. So these are very important things. So take your time to fill it out, take your tax returns out, look at all your financial obligations, and then fill the form. Very, very well. Thanks.
Thank you. And then if you find that with the FAFSA, unlike some of the other forms, if you find that you've made an error, you are able to go back into the FAFSA and make corrections. However, there's another form which is called the CSS profile, and this is an application for institutional non-federal aid. So any money that the school itself has available that they can give to students. And so this is not, like I said, is not required by all schools. Only 400 schools in the country require this form. But you would need to check and make sure that before you fill out this form, make sure that you check with the school to see if it's required. Typically on the admissions website, along with all the other checklists, the financial aid information will let you know whether or not it's required. And if you're still not sure, you can still go to the CSS profile website, and it lists all the schools that accept this application. And so this is a more thorough application. They're going to ask you a lot more information, and it can take sometimes 1 hour with some of the clients that I work with. Sometimes it's multiple days, just depending on your tax situation. And so unlike the FAFSA, which is, the FAFSA is free, the CSS profile, there's a cost associated with it. So it's $25 for the first school, and then it's $16 for each additional school. However, if your student ended up getting a application fee waiver for their SAT, then it will automatically waive it for them when they're completing this CSS profile. Or if that wasn't the case, you didn't get a waiver, you ended up paying for SAT waiver, when they look at the system automatically will waive the cost depending on your family's income if it's below a certain amount. So just to make you aware of that. So you have to be very strategic, because it's a $25 plus if you're, depending on how many schools, you just want to make sure that you're filling this form correctly. And the other thing about this form is you can't go back and edit it. So you really want to take your time to make sure that you're entering this information correctly.
Yeah, the CSS profile is a very, sometimes it could take, I mean, I used to do it, sometimes it takes me like 3-4 days, because you have to think about what you're going to write, because like she said, your mistakes are counted against you, so you got to be very careful when you fill out all this stuff. And they ask, and these are a lot of the private schools, they want you to fill out the CSS profile, you know, so it's a very important document. And again, once you do this the first year, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. If you need any help, we're here anyway, so you can always you can call or email and let us know exactly what areas you need help with.
Okay. Thank you. And then there's the state financial aid websites. Just want to make sure that you are taking advantage of any money that's available to you. Virginia has their own website, Maryland has their own website, and DC also has their own website. So make sure you go on, check the deadlines, and go through whatever the application requirements are for those. Okay, so when it comes to admissions decisions, we all want our students to be admitted, but unfortunately, it may not be the case initially, especially for some of our students who applied early action or maybe even early decision. Their application might have been deferred to the regular admission cycle, which is the January 1st, or anything after January 1st, whenever that deadline is. But they're going to review their application again. So just keep that in mind. But the thing about deferred admission, if the application has been diverted to another admission cycle, you want to make sure that the school or the university that that student is applying to receives any additional information that may have happened since that application was submitted. Was there any awards that the student has won? Did the student take another SAT or ACT or subject test? Make sure that the university is getting that information so that they can update that and they have a new set of information to review when they're reviewing the applicant. Now, the other thing is waitlisted. So in regular admission cycle, they may not deny you straight out, but they put you on a waiting list. They say, okay, this applicant could be a good fit for our school, but we also have other students who might be a better fit. Let's see if they really want to come. And if those students don't come, then they'll release those spaces and to those students on the wait list. And just like I said with the deferred admissions, you want to also reach out to the school, let them know that you're still interested, and submit any documentation that you might have that might now show the student in a different light. Going back to deferred and waitlisted decisions, make sure you review the letter or the website or the email that made you aware that that was the decision, because there might be additional steps that have been spelled out for your student. So you want to make sure that you are reading through that and not missing anything. And then unfortunately, some of our students will be denied admissions, but we want to make sure that you are supporting your students when those decisions come out, whether admitted or denied. The denied, of course, it's very heartbreaking for a lot of them. Some of them feel that, you know, they link their what's the word? They link their self-esteem to these admissions decisions. So you want to be there to really encourage them and let them know that there's more about life than what the school thinks about them. Uncle Yele? Okay. All right. So I'm going to go on to email and social media check. Please make sure that you are just, sorry, Uncle, you had
Hello?
something?
Yes. Sorry, I wanted to say something a little bit about the denied status.
Okay.
Okay. Now, a lot of students may not tell their parents, but they're highly disappointed when they don't get to their schools of choice. And it's almost like some people even take it so hard. But your job as parents is to kind of like to tell them it's not, it's okay. It's their loss. That's the way I look at it, is school's loss. And sometimes maybe the best thing that happened to them for not getting admitted in that school. So it's not the end of the world. We have a God who puts us in the right place at the right time. Now, the thing that I want all of you to always understand is the more opportunities you open for your students, the better the chances of getting into a decent school that of their choice. So if you only do 5 applications, then if you get denied in 4, you know it'll be a very tough one just getting into any school. But if you do like 10 to 15, most likely you get in a reasonable, maybe 25% of them may be admitted, you may be admitted in 25% of them. So it's a game of numbers also, because there's a lot of smart students out there, especially when you're trying to get into the real top schools. Nowadays, Maryland is considered pretty much a hard school to get into because of the scores, because there are so many people who are eligible in this area, and because of that, it's very hard to get in. So the better you package your application, the better, the earlier you submit, the better your chances. It's a game of numbers. So don't take it personal if you don't get in. It's fine, but again, and like Ayo said, if you are being waitlisted, there's still a couple of things that you may add. Let me just give you a quick example for 1 minute. I was at a school, a pretty decent school, and they were telling us, admission counselors were telling us, they had a guy waitlisted. Now, let me tell you, statistically, some schools waitlisting is 1 out of 10 that will come back on the list. Maybe some schools are 1 out of 20 on the waiting list. So when you're waiting list, it's not a very fantastic place, but at least you're not denied yet. And there's a couple of things. Now, the admissions counselors was telling us that there's a particular guy who was waitlisted, and then he sent the admissions office one part of a pair of socks, just one part. Then he put it in there. He wrote in there, "You guys have 1 leg in. Can you guys just get me? Can you put the other leg in?" And they laughed. Guess what? They brought the boy in because they like the sense of humor. So these are little things that can work. So it's not over till it's over. So you have to just understand how this whole thing is. The whole admission office was, they liked the boy because of his sense of humor, and they brought him in. So those are things I just want to show you, little tricks on how to make sure that your kids get into where they want. Thanks, Ayo.
Thank you, Uncle. Okay, so one more thing that I want to mention is email and social media check. Definitely want to advise your students, because we're in an age of technology. Schools will more than likely, the first point of contact with your student is going to be by email, whether it is to confirm that they received the application or any follow-up. These admissions officers, depending on how large the school is or even how small the school is, there's an admissions counselor that's assigned to your child. So they may send an email to your child asking for some clarification on something, or asking for additional information. So you want to make sure that your child is checking their email. In addition, these schools have admissions portals. So these are portals where the students can log on, check and confirm that the school has received all parts of their application, and also see whether or not they've been admitted or denied. So make sure that your student is keeping track of all those logins. And so if your student hasn't submitted their application yet, I would advise you just to take a look at their email, make sure the email is professional. You don't want anything that's derogatory or just anything that might be a little bit too funny. Let it be their name at whatever, maybe Gmail or whatever, Yahoo or what have you. Let it to be very professional. Make sure that they're checking their emails daily. I know some families, they created and I advise families to do this, create a whole separate email just for college applications, because once it starts, if you're already getting personal emails, you might overlook something might go to spam. But if you have a whole other account just for college applications, you the chances of missing something is a lot less. And so I will also recommend that you Google your child's name. It may not be your child, just to see what's out there. Maybe you Google and you do find something on your child that might not be the best face that your child wants to put out there. I'm not saying that all schools will take the time to check social media or Google any student, but if they do, what are they going to see? And I've had clients where I had to tell them either close this account, delete this post, because even if it's just retweeting, look at what your student is retweeting. It may not be what they're posting, it might be what they're retweeting, it might be what they're liking. And also Google their email address to see what maybe there's been posts even on YouTube that they might have commented on that might have not been appropriate. So you want to make sure that you take some time to do that. Even if not for college admissions, it could be for even jobs at this point. So just
Yes.
very, very careful on that. Uncle?
That is very correct, Ayo. And please make sure your child's email is not hotchick@yahoo.com, okay? Or big and tall, or tall and handsome. Just make sure it's clean, the first name and the last name, and then that's it. And also, believe it or not, Ayo, one of my students about 5 years ago, very brilliant girl, she got an admission to Cornell, and they withdrew the admissions because they went online and they found something that she didn't disclose. So they denied her admissions. And she was a very smart girl. Everything was okay, but she did not disclose it at that time to the school. I think it was something about, maybe she was president or something, or she was a member of something, and she didn't disclose it. And they said, oh, we asked you to disclose everything, and they denied her admissions to Cornell. That was like 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm sure now that with better tools, the schools know how to get you online. Especially a lot of the elite schools, they don't want just anybody coming to their school, so they're going to check you out. They're going to run some checks on you. So please tell your children what kind of pictures you have on there. Everything that is on social media is something that is captured, and easily they can find you. So please, please, please tell them to clean up their act and make sure that there's nothing derogatory on the platform. We can't say this enough. This is a very important point. Thanks, Ayo.
Okay, so scholarships, you can find scholarship anywhere, but the key is to look for them. I have a list of scholarship websites that I've shared before, and this is after your student has submitted their application, and they might be like, what's next? They feel so free that they don't have anything to do, but just know, parents, that tuition bill is coming. So anything we can do to knock off that cost for you or get that cost down for you, it is in your best interest to make sure that your student is applying for scholarships. Here's a list of scholarships that I've shared before, but I'll share it again along with this presentation. Again, I've mentioned JLB College Counseling. She has scholarships that she has personally researched and put on her website, and she has broken them down by different categories. So I would encourage you to definitely take a look at her website. And so just to recap on everything, play a supportive role during this process. Is very, very, there's a lot of pressure on your child. They may say they're under pressure, they may not. Every child is different. Help your child review all their applications and all the requirements now, today. If you need a tracking, I have a spreadsheet that I use to track all the different requirements. It's editable, and you can go ahead and use it. If you need it, just please send me an email or send me a WhatsApp message. I'll send it directly to you. Make sure to contact all the individuals that will be playing or submitting parts of the applications, the counselor, any teachers, and the testing agencies, SAT or ACT, to make sure that those parts of the application are being submitted to the schools. Review the test optional list and really weigh the pros or cons if you decide to take that as an option. Take advantage of any centralized application, the Common App, the Coalition App, the Black Common App, just to make the process a little bit easier. Make sure you apply for financial aid. Google your child and check their social media presence, and always, always search for scholarships. Uncle Yellen?
Well, again, just a recap and a lot of things you've said. I'm sure that parents have a lot of questions. It would be nice if we can type some, so that we can just, maybe you can help to answer a couple of questions. That would be nice. If not, you can always ask the questions on the Caleb Crew forum or however, but the bottom line, it's never too late. Okay. That's all I'm going to say. And I hope to God, I pray that, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you back up 10 seconds of what you said? It was breaking. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Well, no, what I'm saying is, I know that it's a lot of pressure and this at this time and a lot of things to do, but don't sit down. Just do something this next few days that your kids are on holidays. Do something. Go through the process that we've talked about. If you need help, go and you can type the help on the Caleb Crew on the WhatsApp, or you can send your questions now if you want, or you can reach out to us outside. But just do something. The kids are going through a lot of pressure. This is not the time to blame them. Okay, so please don't blame them. There's a lot of pressure already. Just calm down and just help them one at a time. And again, remember now, the more colleges you apply, the better your chances of getting an admission into any of the colleges that you apply into. And just also research into those small colleges that they're not big names, that names like Amherst, like Howard College, colleges that that are small, they're prestigious, Swarthmore College, that your child has a very good chance, small campus, but they have extremely excellent education and they give a lot of scholarship because they have a lot of money. So please, again, take a little bit of time to go through all these things, and then if you need help, let us know. God bless you.
Okay, so since there's not that many people on the line, I'm just gonna go ahead and unmute everyone. Okay. And if you have questions, just feel free. I'm gonna unmute now.
How many people are on the line?
I have a question though. I have a question.
Okay.
I was wondering if you guys can share the name of those small schools that gives a lot of money, just like the big schools.
Okay, Ayo, you wanna take a hit on that?
Yeah, I can. I actually, where's the book? I have a book here of 40 different schools, and I can also share a list of some liberal arts colleges in the area. Mm-hmm. This book is called Colleges That Changed Lives, 40 different schools. They profile the schools, and they also have feedback from the students that have gone there. And there's actually a website you can take a look at. These schools tend to be some of the schools that provide a little bit more aid than most of our state colleges and universities. So we can definitely share that with you.
Okay.
And also,
in Maryland, I would say our McDaniels College, Washington College, Hood College,
Hood, yes.
Yolola, depending.
Loyola, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uncle, anything?
Yeah, again, I was saying something like the Hobart College, a lot of colleges in Pennsylvania, Access, a lot of smaller colleges that, again, they have a lot of money. But the way you can also research is if you go on that common app and you're searching for college, and some of the sites that Ayo gave you to go, if you go back tonight and just search and put the criteria, maybe no more than 4,000 students. There are a lot of small colleges, 2,500 to 4,000, smaller campuses, but they're excellent education. They're like $60,000 or sometimes $45,000. And a lot of them are around Pennsylvania, New Jersey, PA, Access, this Access. They're all around here. And they're all very good schools. Mm-hmm. And they get a lot of money. So again, I will probably send you some of the list, but you can do a lot of research yourself on it. And then you can ask us about those colleges. We can give you feedback on them. I have a lot of students in small colleges all over the whole place.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like everybody. There's no more questions. Again, maybe if you can answer your questions here, you can always put a question to us on the WhatsApp group. Okay, or you can email the questions or you can call us and send the email questions to us. The information is on the screen. Ayo is sharing the screen now. I just want to say thank you for calling in, and please remember it's a tough time, but by God's grace, you'll be able to go through it, and at the end of the day, your child will go to a great college, and they will be able to go to with as little loan as possible with a lot of scholarships, and that's why we're here to help you. And of course, you can always reach Ayo, who's who's the ultimate expert, to help in whatever areas that you need. All right, take care. God bless.
Good night.
Good night. God bless.
Thank you, Miss Ayo. Thank you, Brother Yele.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Yele. Thank you, Mr. Ayo.
No problem.
You're welcome. Welcome. God bless you. Okay, bye.
Who's going to become a pastor?